have heard about this online, you may have spoken to friends about this, but what is it? What does it mean? How do you even apply for a golden visa? And of course, what are the benefits of the golden visa? We're going to be looking at also the methods of investment. There's quite a few. Some are more straightforward than others. Just to give you a very short rundown of methods of investment, there's real estate, there's created employment, and there's capital transfer. And then also what we'll look at is the tax obligations as a resident if you have the golden visa in Portugal, and also as a non-resident if you have the golden visa, because you don't have to be a resident to have the golden visa. How can we help you? And then, as I said, there's going to be the Q&A. So the golden visa is in Portugal is an investment-based resident permit granted to non-EU nationals. So a non-EU national obviously is anybody that lives outside of the EU. It allows you to reside in Portugal and live within the Schengen area, which is obviously great, so you can live and work in the EU. The application process actually involves close work with, again, Tobo and Quintana to ensure all the steps are taken to start the golden visa process off right. The first step is to apply for a residence permit, which the lawyers will request through a digital platform as they are officially registered online. Some individuals will need to carry out, will need an entry visa, which is mandatory for certain countries, but if you're from the UK, US, or Brazil, so you should be fine if you're from those countries. And this is again done through the digital platform. Once you have had the residence permit visa for more than 5 years, you can apply for Portuguese citizenship. And then this is possible then to request a European passport. So if we look at the golden visa, one of the first things that you'll need is a NIF number, because the NIF is the taxpayer identification number. It's basically, without the NIF, you can't do anything in Portugal. You've got to have a NIF number. And then that is sort of lodged in the system. And with that NIF number, you can then apply for things like a bank account, apply to buy a house in Portugal. Everything is done for that NIF. One thing to know with the NIF, because you will be at least at the time a non-resident, you'll need a fiscal representative. This is somebody that basically acts on your behalf to communicate to the tax authority. So again, our lawyers can do that, or it could be, again, somebody in Portugal that you may know, but it's very important to understand that you must have a fiscal representative as long as you're not considered a tax resident in Portugal. Once you're considered a tax resident in Portugal, you're no longer required to have the fiscal representation. One of the ways to become the tax resident is by actually obviously changing your NIF address to a Portuguese address. So that's one of the important things. Obviously, with the golden visa, you'll have to choose an investment type. That's something that we will speak about later. You'll definitely need to open a Portuguese bank account. And the reason why this is very important is because any investment you make for the golden visa must go in to that Portuguese bank account, and it must come from you, the person. It can't come from a company or any other type of entity. It's really important to understand that, because we have many clients that say, I have a company, my company could, for example, transfer me the amount. That's fine, but you need to transfer it from the company to you, the person, and then from you, the person, to your bank account in Portugal. So yeah, very important, and we work with bank accounts that can, obviously, we can open that. Another thing is to attend SEF, which is the local government agency, and the SEF is where you would obviously have to apply and send all your documentation to be accepted for the golden visa. Now, let's look at the benefits, because as a Portuguese Golden Visa applicant, you can expect to receive many benefits, such as being offered a favorable tax routine if you decide to relocate to Portugal. A key benefit is that you don't actually have to move to Portugal to keep your residence permit, which gives you the freedom to come and go as you please. One of the things to look at is the beneficiaries of the Golden Visa are entitled to reside. They'll have a residence visa waiver for entering Portugal. They can live and work in Portugal on the condition that they stay in Portugal for a period of 7 or more days in the first year and 14 or more days in the subsequent 2 years. So you could literally just come on holiday for a week for the first year, come again on holiday for 2 weeks for the next 2 years. And in Portugal, I'm sure you'll find plenty to do within those 2 weeks. It's a wonderful country. There is so much to do here. And obviously it's a very big tourist attraction. So I don't think you're gonna not like coming to Portugal, at least for 2 weeks. One of the other things is you get a visa exemption for traveling within the Schengen area, which is, I would say, very important, because at least it means you can go anywhere within that area. When you're in the passport line, you don't have to go into the non-EU line, which if you're from the UK, now people are finding that very annoying, having to go into a different line just to then enter somewhere within Europe. You can also do the family reunification. So if you have a family member, whether it's a spouse or you have children, they can also come under the Golden Visa. That's, again, something that we would explain to you in more detail, but at least obviously it means you can move with your family as well. And then you'd have to apply for a residence permit. And also, as I said, you can apply for Portuguese citizenship. So you do get that Portuguese passport after 5 years. And I would say the next option is obviously the methods of investment. There are quite a few, and what I'm going to do is hand this over to Daniela to speak about the various different methods of investment, which is obviously the key part of the Golden Visa.
Okay, I will try. My English is not so good as yours. Let's see, my Portuguese is better, but my English is not. Basically, we have 8 ways to invest to apply for Golden Visa. The first one, it's the simple. It's a transfer of money of 1.5 million euros. So you send this money to a Portuguese bank and stay with this money for 5 years at the bank, and you have your Golden Visa. Okay, it's the simple way, but it's the highest one to invest. One of the most clients ask for the investment is a real estate investment in properties. So in this situation, we have 2 ways to do that. One, you invest 500,000. Sorry, you invest 500,000 in properties in Portugal. If you want somewhere, some place to live in, so housing properties, it's not allowed right now at the cost. Okay, you need to invest at the interior of the country. If you want to invest in commercial, service, and other kind of properties, it's allowed in all of the country. Okay, you invest in 500,000 and you have your Golden Visa. If you don't have this money, you can invest less, 350,000 euros. In this situation, it's allowed to invest in properties that has more than 30 years. So it needs to be constructed 30 years ago, okay? Or needs some improvements, some works at the property, and you can invest less, okay? So it's the 2 ways to invest in properties. You have another kind of investments that you can provide 10 working jobs in Portugal. So you need to open working jobs for residents in Portugal. Okay, it's not for bring people from outside. It's people who already lives in Portugal, and you provide 10 working jobs here. and you invest in this period of this employees for 5 years, and you have the Golden Visa. Another way to invest is invest in commercial societies, and they provide 5 working jobs. So it's a mix, society and working job. And you have another 2 ways. It's the less that the people invest. We are talking about scientific research and artistic production. Okay, we can send some information for the investments, but I think I can summarize that.
Yeah, I would agree. So as you can see, there's definitely a number of different ways to invest. We do find the most common, or I would say real estate. Yeah, is the most common. You can just put your money into the property, then
you can rent. So you can rent that, and you can buy more than one. So if you invest 500 euros, you can buy, for example, 5 houses if you want. Okay, it's not necessary to buy only one. Okay, and you can live in one and rent another one.
Exactly. So that I would say is the most common. I'd probably say the second most common is the capital transfer, where you would literally just put the money into the bank, leave it there, and you know,
and you have funds
as well.
And you can decide what kind of funds you can invest here in Portugal. It's 500,000 too.
Exactly. So I would say they're obviously all the ways to invest. But as I said, with this process, once you're looking to apply, especially speak to us, and then we can obviously look at the best process that's going to be for you. Is always my advice. And then looking at the Golden Visa, I would say, obviously, once you've said you want to come to Portugal, you have made the application, you know how you're investing. An important factor is then to realize there will be some tax obligations in Portugal. And even if you're a non-resident, there are still going to be tax obligations because you're going to have an investment in Portugal. And obviously that's going to give you some sort of income. And then you will obviously have to pay taxes on that. If we look at, say, for example, real estate, what is very popular in Portugal is that people use Airbnb or Alojamento Local. So with Alojamento Local, you could obviously rent your property out as many times as you want, as much as you want, or throughout the year. It's a big tourist attraction in Portugal. With that, if you decide to become a resident of Portugal, you will then obviously have to declare all of that income on the tax return. And with that tax return, what happens in Portugal for Alojamento Local is that you will have to pay what's known as the progressive rate. So these are progressive rates of tax based on a certain amount of income. However, what Portugal does say is this is a specialist area, so you'd only pay those rates upon 35% of your gross income. So if you have an income of 100,000, it'd be 35% of that 100,000, so 35,000, for example. One of the things that we would need to do is prove 15% of that income as expenses. So that's something that's very important. And there's a lot more detail in terms of how you go about submitting receipts in Portugal, and how obviously you'd have to do VAT in Portugal as well. But that's something that's more based on, let's have a discussion, and obviously we would, as the accountancy firm, set you up in doing that. One thing to note though, if you have the Alojamento Local as a non-resident, you then have to actually pay a flat rate of 25% based on that 35% of your gross income. So there's still different factors for residents and non-residents. So I'd always say, let's speak to us when you're making that investment option, because then we can do some tax planning to say, this is the tax payable at least for the next 5 years, depending on whether you're going to be a resident or not. That's probably the main thing to look at, is choose your investment type, then look at the tax obligations. And then I would say after that, it's just apply and look to join the golden visa, and, you know, become a resident or not a resident of Portugal.